Good afternoon, everyone. You are very welcome to the Men's Health Week 2025 Men Health webinar. Today's event is supported by an ISL interpreter. Today's panelists would also be delighted to receive any questions or insights you may have. Please use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your PC or laptop screen. If you're using any other digital device, this may be located in the More options, usually represented by 3 dots. If you are using social media today, please tag us at Connecting for Health. Your hosts for today are Lorcan Brennan and Fergal Fox. And now, without further ado, I will hand you over to Lorcan.
Hello, everybody, and you're very welcome to International Men's Health Week. My name is Lorcan Brennan from the Men's Development Network, and I'm so delighted to be here for the launch of International Men's Health Week and to welcome you all on board for a conversation for the next while in relation to marking and celebrating the week in some kind of a special way. Delighted also to have with me here beside me is Michael Feeney. I met Michael not so long ago at an event in Dublin, the Deaf Village Ireland, and I just call out to the men up there because I had such a fabulous welcome up there on that day, and to Orla who brought me along as well, and to everybody who's joining us with Michael here today. Just a big call out to you and thanks for joining us for this webinar to mark International Men's Health Week as well. As always, behind us we have the partners and all of the people who make these events happen. People like the Health Service Executive, the Men's Health Forum in Ireland, the Southeast Technological University, and then of course the Men's Development Network, plus all the hundreds of people who make up the different organisations who work for Men's Health Week and who are part of MHFI in the planning for this webinar and also for all the other events that will happen across the week ahead. Now, we came together at the end of 2024 to begin the conversation in relation to what men's health would be about. And we ended up with, as we will know, a shoulder to shoulder, connecting for health. And that's going to be our theme for the week. And it's well up and going on social media and lots of other places. And in a few moments' time, I'm going to bring on Collie Fowler. And Collie, of course, is Mr. Men's Health Week himself. And he's going to chat to us a little bit about it. It's only Monday, so we can still get involved in the week. Collie's going to come on to us. But before we do that, I'm going to invite you to just watch a little short video to get us in the mood for the day. Well, there we have it. We're off the blocks with the video, and I'm going to invite Collie to come on and say hello to us there as well. He's somewhere on the way to us. Collie, you're really, really welcome, and thanks for joining us as well. You missed out on our last day out because I know you had a bit of a dose on you. Tell us though, we've started the week. You're very welcome. Why are we here, Collie? Very briefly.
Well, firstly, just let me say happy Men's Health Week 2025 to both yourself, Lorcan, and everybody else across the country. For those who don't really know how we got here, a group of people, almost 100 organisations, in fact, from the whole island of Ireland, have been meeting since the end of last year to plan this. And Men's Health Week is a chance really for everyone across the island and across the world to sort of raise awareness of men's health issues, to start supporting healthier lifestyle choices, and to encourage early detection and treatment of illnesses in men. So in a way, we're here to kick off a really big adventure that's going to last from now until Sunday, and we're really looking forward to it.
Very good. And Collie, it is only Monday, so there's lots of people maybe say, God, we really haven't got out of the blocks ourselves yet. What can people do? A couple of actions that maybe even still we can get on and do in relation to social media or whatever to promote the week and get some traction going across the social medias and other places.
Yeah, indeed we can, Lorcan. I suppose there's 5 things people need to know before we start. One is that it's not too late to get involved. That's really important because people think, oh, it's already started. It's somebody else's problem now, people who have been planning for months, but it's not too late. Get out there and get started into something. Secondly, it's easy and it's free to do some things to support the week, and everybody can do something. And I suppose we need to know that nothing that you do is too small. everything will make a difference. Everything is important, and just go out and do it. And I suppose, as you said, there's some practical things. I'm going to hold some things up. You might not be able to see them in the background, but of course, the first thing to do is think about getting a poster, putting it up in your club, putting it up in your workplace, put it up in your canteen, put it up in your business, and hopefully then other people will know about the week. But as well as that, of course, one of the big things of Men's Health Week is our man manual. And even though we're really short in supply, there's only a few available still with the health promotion website. You can still get it online. Get the men you know to have a read through the book, pick out some of the top tips, and possibly do something about it. But at this point, probably the biggest thing that people can do is let others know about Men's Health Week. Get out there, start posting, start making tweets, use the ready-made pool that we have on our website at mhfi.org, and get going with it. And of course, just join an event, listen to the radio, have a look at your local pharmacy window or your local shop for a poster, and find an event to join in with.
Well, Collie, look, thanks for jumping on at the start, because I know with yourself and so many other partners, you've put so much work into what has happened, and lots of people out there are doing stuff. So people can take on board those 5 things. And I know in the chat bar, stuff will go up there, and it'll be linked in there as well for you. So all of that stuff will be there, folks. So yes, please do get involved, as Collie said, and maybe Collie, we might reference you again later on in the program. Have a good week yourself, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, folks. Have a good one.
Very good. Thanks very much. That's Collie Fowler, does so much work on the island of Ireland in relation to all the work that we do. And so we're asking you to stay with us, folks, for the next while, because we're going to have some really interesting people on with us. And one of our first people, I see him in the wings there now, we're going to bring him up in a moment as well. But just to say as well to you folks, the Q&A bar is there active. If anybody has anything that you want to put into it or a question to ask, please do use it for us in relation to asking those questions and being interactive with us on the webinar as well. Now, I'm going to bring on, first of all, somebody called Sean Blake. And Sean, you can join us there where you're ready. And Sean, we had a lovely conversation last week, just a check-in before we actually came here in relation to doing the interview itself. And I watched your video, Sean, which is on RT, it's on the player, and people can go back and reference it again, I suppose. Anorexia, My Family and Me. A really powerful video indeed to watch. So thank you very, very much for giving us your time here today. Now, Sean, you're a married man, you have 4 children, and I know that at a stage in your life you came to that you had to acknowledge for yourself that you had a struggle or a dysfunctional relationship with food. And that's very much the story of your recovery that's there in that documentary. You're very, very welcome, first of all, and thanks for being here. So just to say that to you, first of all, can I start at the very beginning and just say in relation to that, Sean, you yourself have said you're not the stereotypical kind of person who might turn up with an eating disorder, and what that was like for you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, look, there is a stereotype out there when it comes to eating disorders. And again, even with eating disorders, there's a certain stereotype around what they are. I mean, there's no real look to eating disorders. And for me, I suppose it was difficult enough in that, like, when I was in my late 30s and I was married and I had 4 children and I was male, obviously, that an eating disorder wasn't something that was kind of out there. It wasn't something that people might think that I had. So I had, as you've said, a bad relationship with food and exercise. And really what it was, eating disorders, they're not about food, they're not about what we look like, they're about a deeper pain. And for me, that's what it was. And basically, yeah, like I was fighting something else that was deep down. And unfortunately, like for many years, that resulted in me just, neglecting a lot of things in my life, my own health. My family, as hard as it is to say, would have come second place because, it takes over your life, takes over everything. Very hard to say out loud, but I have come to terms with the fact that it wasn't me, it was the eating disorder that was speaking. I needed to speak up because there was no way I was going to be able to stop, basically. So I knew I had a problem, and it was coming from hearing other people's voices, other people's lived experience voices, that kind of started twigging things with me. I started thinking, oh, I do that. And, so there had been a whole story where I'd gone to a GP, and it was put down to me being just healthy. And again, it may have been because I was male. There was often times I had spoken out and said to someone maybe that, I don't think I can stop running. And the usual response was, sure, there's worse things to be addicted to. eventually I got so ill that it was very hard to keep going. So I asked for that help.
And Sean, when you think about it, for men, sometimes we often see it in the research that we are slow to get to a service or to ask for the support, or we're not sure how to do that. Was that your experience as well? When you think back, could you have went earlier? Could you have addressed the pain earlier? Or had you to just go through that process anyway?
I often ask myself that, and I do think if there was more awareness around it, I definitely think I could have gotten help earlier. I could have asked for help, and I think I could have gone for the right therapy. And I think I may have stopped it, getting so far. I mean, like, I didn't even know when I went into St. Pat's as an inpatient in the eating disorder service. I didn't know what it was even then, and it was only during my recovery I realised what was causing it. And I suppose if I had have gotten that help earlier, I might have avoided that from actually happening. And I think the awareness just wasn't there. And there is that thing as well about, there are people that would be like, oh, you're a man, you shouldn't, should keep going and get on with it, and, go out for a run or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, that's not what's going to stop it. I mean, if you have deep pain that's hurting, it's not going to help you. You really need to get help, to talk it out, to figure out what's going on.
You say in the documentary, Sean, as well, and you've already mentioned it there in passing, you said, like, some people might say to you, you're lucky it's not drugs or it's not alcohol, you're lucky to have that addiction. It's a strange kind of a take on something when you watch the documentary and you see how ill you really were. You were a very sick young man.
Yeah, and that's really hard, and because my relationship, like, I ran marathons, I ran an ultra marathon, I did all these things, and my whole time and my whole thing doing that, only thing going around my head was my eating disorder and what it was going to do for that. There was nothing else going on. Everything I did was for that. And yeah, that thing with, you get out and you go for a run and you do this and clear your head, and a lot of people will diagnose it will recommend it for your mental health. Now, it is great. I know it really clears people's heads, but I do find if you have something that's really so deep, my worry for people is that they latch onto that. And that's basically what happened with me. I latched onto something that people were saying, oh, look, you're losing weight, you're great, you're after doing this marathon, you're great, and for me, that was the first time in my life I felt wanted. I felt like I was good at something. I felt like, look, people are noticing, so I can't stop this, and I need to keep going and doing it, because the next time I see that person, if they don't say that to me, it means I failed again, and it just drives you deeper and deeper into that eating disorder. I guess to the point where it takes over your head so much that you no longer have control. It controls the complete narrative of your life, and that is ultimately what happens to me, to the point where it nearly took me completely.
Okay, Sean, this is the week for the call out. We've shoulder to shoulder, which is the theme for the week for Connecting for Health. And one of the themes as well that's explored in the documentary is that one person with an eating disorder in the house, it's not one person that goes through it. The whole family fabric and unit, and your wife and children. So we belong to each other, even in our illness, in a very special way, don't we?
Yes, completely. And you're so spot on with that. I mean, the trauma is different for a carer as well. I mean, my wife went through serious hell with me over the years. She told me she used to wake up in the middle of the night to make sure I'm still breathing. Like, my family missed out, my kids missed out on a lot, going abroad on holiday because we couldn't. Everything revolved around my eating disorder behaviors. And my wife is very smart in that she knew that. She knew that, like, she couldn't stop it by telling me to eat, or she couldn't, so it affected so much. And look, it took times from me with my kids too that I should have been more present. And again, it's very hard to say that because you feel like you may be judged, but at the same time, it wasn't me, and I need to say it out loud because it's so important to get across to people that it's not you, it's not your fault, it's the illness taking over.
Now, when you were in St. Patrick's, I think it was, and you talk about, as I think as well in the documentary, you highlight, writing a letter to yourself in relation to self-compassion. We'll come to that in a moment. For yourself as a man, and I just wondering about this for ourselves, in living in the world, in relation to developing our expressive and emotional intelligence, like you're here now speaking about that, in your recovery, was that part of your journey to be able to find the language where you could say, this is actually the pinnacle of what's being pushed down. This is what I really need to talk about. Was that transformative to find that? Because I think we can be slow to that sometimes.
Be completely slow to it. My emotions and how I know myself now are better than they've ever been. I never really said much. I was always afraid of being ridiculed. I was always afraid of looking stupid. And since then, I've decided to use my voice. I feel so. It's like fighting back for all those years. I mean, I speak a lot in relation to awareness, and I look back at myself now, even I think, hey, that can't be me. I mean, I'm someone who, like, social media frightened me so much. As I said before, I was afraid to hit a like on something in case someone saw me. And I have an Instagram account now where I show my recovery paths. I mean, like, that's probably the biggest thing, as mad as it sounds, in my life that I did. And I can still look back at myself and say how I'm amazed at myself for doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know there was the documentary and stuff, but something as simple as that, and I suppose it's because it's more of a live thing. You know, it's like the Gogglebox episode that featured my story that I told you about. You're seeing people's reactions live, so it can be tough, but it's, you know what, it's really good in recovery. It's kind of bringing me out, and it's making me learn more about myself.
Sean, for men watching, especially for any of us, I often say, I said it earlier to somebody, that services are not just for other people. We are the other people. We all need different services. And there might be somebody watching today, and not just in relation to an eating disorder, but we're living in a very stimulated culture. Addiction we live so close to all kinds of addiction. What would you say to a man that maybe feels he needs to take that step, make that call, but is really struggling to get to the service? Because this is a week where I say you're a super advocate in relation to minding our health and well-being as men. What would you say to that man that's just wondering, how can I get to that bell? How can I make that call?
I would say just talk about it. It's so important, and I have not been judged by anyone at all. I have had nothing but positive feedback from men as well, who I've often talked to, and they've told me their own stories. Organizations like Bodywise, who are eating disorder awareness, they have so much information. Another amazing organization that I got involved with was Shine. Shine has been a massive part of my recovery. Shine offers so many services for people, and anyone, please look up Shine and Bodywise. I've gotten involved with so much with them to the point where I'm actually doing an abseil off Crow Park next month. So that's going to be tough. But you look for that help. Look for people who, as my wife said when I went into St. Pat's, I found my tribe. Look for people who understand, because I promise you, there are people out there who will listen and they won't judge. So it's just so important that you speak up, because you deserve it. You deserve to have that compassion for yourself. And from someone who never thought they'd actually like themselves or they could ever get near recovery, I promise you it is possible. And we all deserve that compassion. So just, ask for help. There is help out there.
Well done. Well, look at Sean. Thank you so much. We've ran on time, but that's an amazing call out, and you're so supportive of the work that you do. And I really, really thank you for bringing your voice to Men's Health Week. And those organisations have gone up there in the chat bar. People can find out about them. And go well, and we'll talk again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. There you go, folks. Sean Blake, what a story and what a testimonial. Just a remarkable man, and out there doing it to support others now and making a difference to many people's lives. Now, our next person to talk to, anybody interested in GAA will know of this guy, because his name is Michael Darragh, and Michael Darragh can come in and say hello to us there, because I suppose the one thing to say about Michael Darragh is that I asked friends about you, Michael Darragh, when we were, and they knew I was going to interview you, and they said, God, he had a beautiful style of football, and he was such a unique blend of how he went at stuff. He was magic to watch, and all of the above. I didn't feel great about myself after I heard all that about you, but just remarkable stuff. But Michael Darragh, you have played with Dublin, from 2010 to 2020. You have 8 All-Ireland medals along the way. And after the boots, then you went off, and you're now involved with Sanctuary Runners. And I met you through our own leadership program. Sarah, who runs our leadership program, brought you in on that. And I just was blown away by the work that you're doing with Sanctuary Runners. And just to say, folks, I suppose Sanctuary Runners is a Solidarity Through Sport initiative, which uses running, jogging, and walking to bring together asylum seekers, refugees, migrants, and all Irish residents. And I suppose it models and allows communities to get to know each other through sport and activity. You're very, very welcome, Michael Darragh, first of all. Tell me a little bit about that. After the boots, and we go back to the boots afterwards. Sanctuary Runners, though, it's an amazing initiative now to be involved in.
Hi, thanks, Larkin. You were definitely hearing lies. I've never heard somebody say it. I say I played football beautifully, but anyway, I'll take it. The Sanctuary Miners is, yeah, look, it's a kind of, it's a fantastic initiative. It's using sport and the simplicity of walking, running, or jogging to kind of to build tighter communities, and particularly working with new communities, and bringing everyone together. So yeah, look, so the organization was founded in 2018 by Kerry Man in Cork. And just for the want to get to know, there was a new group of people seeking asylum, refugees in his town in Cork, and he wanted to get to know them. And I suppose he just invited a few of them to go for a jog that day, and it was kind of as simple as that. And I suppose for as much of a want or as much of a need as there was in 2018 for something like our communities to talk together, there's exponentially more of a need now sitting here in 2025, for this space for people to come together and understand each other. So yeah, we've 40 groups across the country, and it's all go, yeah.
Wow, it's just to say you've 40 groups nationally at the moment, and it is all go and it's all growing. And it's such an elemental and an essential kind of community of warmth that you bring people together in relation to that. I'll step back a little bit for a moment because I want to ask you about this, about seeing the light in people. I watched an interview, or I heard an interview about you, and it said somewhere that, the recognition of other mentors that see the light in you when you can't see it in yourself. Teachers, I think you were speaking about teachers. You're doing that now with other people, but for yourself, how important was that early on in your own life to have people who were mentors and were there with the arm around you to support you when you needed it and spotted that light in you?
Yeah, yeah, and I always had them, and I probably maybe didn't appreciate them until I was a bit older in life. People who backed me from a sporting point of view, who backed me from a life point of view, to be honest. And I think a lot of them went a long way in a kind of in when I look back at my childhood and stuff. So I think that's so important, and I kind of make a point to try and do that. And someone says, "Oh, it must be great working with sanctuary runners," or even previously when I used to work in the inner city. And I suppose for me, the real wins were those kind of small conversations when you've spotted somebody in somebody and said, you know what, you're actually great at this. You should go on and pursue this. And they've kind of come back and said, look, well, that actually meant a whole lot. The reason you said that to me, the reason you believed in me, is the reason I'm now going on and I'm a
Yeah.
yoga teacher. Went back to college, or I did whatever I did. So I think those small wins, as opposed to the big programs and the big taking over the world ideas, are always the ones that kind of really kind of keep me going. So I suppose I was lucky enough to kind of appreciate them in myself as I grown up. Yeah.
Okay, the reason I ask is because, looking across your own profile, I see that you don't just do the work yourself, but you mentor others. Or for Pilates, all that, you mentor others to take up those tasks and roles, and especially within sanctuary runners, so people develop their gifts and integrate them into the community, which you see is vitally important to that whole initiative.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think maybe where I can lead into is there was like I used to teach yoga to women, with women in addiction. The Sale Project there, it's a fantastic initiative, and it was great crack as well. To be honest with you, like they're a lively bunch, to say the least. But I remember one day. I used to come in every Wednesday, and then I didn't know how much people liked it, or I didn't really know. People were always very thankful at the end of a session. But I remember somebody tagged me on Instagram or something, or someone saw it. I saw that one of the women in the class, she was dead quiet. She'd never say a word, but her whole Instagram was dedicated to this Wednesday afternoon that she spent. And basically, yeah, she absolutely loved it, and it was the highlight of her week. So it went full circle. We ended up trying to like get her into yoga teaching. We ended up setting up our own yoga teacher training. We taught half of those women, put them on a full-time yoga course, got them training, and now they're going back into the community. And it's been such a huge thing for them. And I get proud when I see them when I see their social media profiles, and it has their name, and the first thing that it has next to it is yoga teacher.
Well,
So that was just a particularly nice initiative in the inner city that we ran. So yeah, I think again, just trying to spot them, those little wins is huge.
absolutely. Now, 8 All-Ireland medals. The boots, you leave them off, and you have to find your life outside of the sport as it was. What's transferable, especially into the work that you found yourself doing afterwards, that comes from that kind of campaigning? You don't win every day, but you win a lot of days. And what's transferable that you bring over and say, okay, this is part of what I've learned in Croker or other places that comes into the work.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I think you develop those bonds when you go through anything with anyone. Like when you go through any sort of hardship or any sort of celebration, like those bonds become tighter. And I suppose, look, with that group, we became really close. And in terms of being transferable, like that all comes into a life skill. Being able to get on to people, being able to get on with people that you normally mightn't get on with is another big part of it. But I suppose one thing that is very relevant is that like I always say like don't become too attached to things. I have a tattoo on my leg reminding me not to do that. Like, and I suppose a lot of people when they walk away from sport, and I'm sure Bernard knows this, and anyone else has been so involved in kind of high level sport, a lot of people really, really struggle because that was their whole thing, that was their whole identity, that was their X and Y and Z. And I think it's important as well to do that, go all in. You have no choice but to be all about it, but to also explore other ideas, explore other initiatives, like have more to yourself than the sport. Because with all the kind of goodwill in the world, there was so many people who struggled walking away from that team. And I know, and I've spoken to rugby and soccer players over the years, and it's a similar dynamic, unfortunately. So I think to anyone listening, like even if you're all in, like say Sean was talking about the running there, and like that's great, it's okay, but maybe is there another community you can join of? I always talk about kind of building out as many strings to your bow as possible. Because sometimes one falls, and that's the reality it is. And that could be people around you, that could be people next to you. That the more kind of those connections to community, the better. Yeah.
Yeah, the week we're celebrating is shoulder to shoulder. And I think it's Mother Teresa said, the great wound of the 21st century is that we've forgotten we belong to each other. And I'm just wondering,
Mm.
the work that you do the value seems to be at the heart of Sanctuary Runners. The reawakening of the sense of we actually belong to each other. There is no stranger, only the friend you haven't got to know. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah, and like I suppose for people to understand it like that, I suppose like I get as much out of Sanctuary Runners as anyone who joins Sanctuary Runners gets out of it as well. As in, it's a completely two-way process in what we do, and we always say we do things with people, not for people. And I suppose like I love getting to know the story of the girl from Zimbabwe and how she got here and why she loves Sanctuary Runners, and also the girl from Fairview and the man from Buncrana and everyone in between. So I think especially with these new kind of sparks and these new connections that you can build. It really goes a long way. So yeah, it's been fantastic to kind of get to know people, and I know people who arrived into this country with new communities, and they've left a lot behind them. And I know like some people have like developed in one story in particular of a woman who came over here from Zimbabwe, and she left a lot behind her, and she was depressed. She'll be tell you herself she was manically depressed in the bed, and she got basically dragged out to Sanctuary Runners one time, and she wasn't a runner, and she ended up like she jogged a 5K, walked a 5K, then jogged a 5K. Long story short, she did the last two Dublin marathons, which in itself is fantastic. The sense of purpose and the sense of the endorphins that you get from that. But also, she got a job through connections and the social capital she built up there. She's doing a fantastic role. I was down in her place of work, and they absolutely love her there. And she's just a real member of the community now. She doesn't need Sanctuary Runners as much. She still joins us, but she's an absolutely integrated part of the community. And it was great that we were able to kind of play a part in her finding that.
Wow, that's amazing, and that's only one story among many. Now you brought slides, but we're flowing here, so I don't want to go to slides, and we've only a few moments left. For yourself, Michael Darragh, what sustains you? I mean, you work really hard. I know you go still really hard. What sustains you in the work, and the amount of going that you actually are involved in, and the amount of outreach?
Yeah, I'm probably I'm pretty good at trying to look after myself as much as I can, but I like it in terms of physiologically as well. But I think I've always been pretty like aggressive, in nearly for want of a better word, in terms of like keeping connections, especially when you get into your 30s and 40s. It's very easy to just be like, ah, sure, Billy in school, haven't seen him in 10 years, whatever. Like I'm that person who actually just calls Billy out of the blue and says, "What are you up to?" And you can ask any of the Dublin lads as well. I can always pestering people to get catch ups going again and go out for a beer, whatever it is. So I think that's really important. So I've kind of kept networks around me, and worked hard at it. It hasn't just happened because I play football or anything. It's happened because I've worked at it, and it's taken time. And I think that's been huge for me, because sometimes one network doesn't work out or one connection, that it's always nice to have those other people around you. So I think that's been a big part of what sustains me in terms of going forward.
Michael, Darragh, we're running on time. It's been fabulous, and thank you so much for giving us your time today. The final thing I want to ask you is the week that's in it, shoulder to shoulder. That's been your experience for all those years with the guys that were your colleagues and your champions together. A call out to the men of Ireland. What would you say for this week, for Men's Health Week, around minding ourselves? Sometimes, I know myself, I need a bit of a call out to myself at this stage of the year to get going again. What would you wish or say to the men of Ireland in relation to minding our health, our well-being, and being active for the future?
Yeah, and I think Sean said it there. Like the first thing is you have to talk, and I suppose what I'd actually like to target is that, like, I think, say somebody who's, look, I'm sorry to use Sean's example there, and Sean knew he probably had to be the first one to say that, but I'd say there was somebody in Sean's network around him that probably knew that he wasn't having a good time. And I think it's really important, if you have that feeling about a friend for whatever reason that they're off, to ask them how are they. And my second biggest thing is to always ask them how they are twice. And I've had huge
Just last
experience.
Back there.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Back now, Mike. Yeah.
Sorry, apologies. Sorry, and I think it's so important to ask people how they are twice, because I think I've asked people how they are, and you're Irish, you always say fine. Ask them how they are twice, and you might actually get a proper answer out of that. And I've talked to people who, I'll be honest with you, have been and I've contemplated suicide, and it's only when you ask them twice that they said, you know what, I'm actually not right. And I think it's something that I'll never forget, to do that. So look, just keep an eye out for someone in your circle, and maybe you haven't heard them for a while, and maybe it's not because they're busy, maybe it's because they need a text from you. So it's no harm.
Okay, Michael, Darragh, look, thank you so much. I really like that. Ask twice. That is a really good action in itself. Thank you so much for being here with us and for sharing, especially about Sanctuary Runners. Folks, have a look. Go and find it. It's a fabulous website. It's a fabulous initiative. Fabulous. And well done. And thanks very much for being here with us today, Michael Darragh. So go well.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
That's Michael Darragh, an amazing story, an amazing activity he's involved in on the island of Ireland. 40 programs working across Ireland. It's just really, really amazing. Now, for a few moments, we're going to go in a slightly different direction, because I want to talk about something that's called BowelScreen Ireland. The BowelScreen is the national bowel screening program for men and women aged 59 to 70. And this is a short video we want to watch. Early last year, Joe Grogan from Tuam, County Galway, he shared a story about bowel cancer. He took the test and he discovered he needed the support and help of the systems that are there to make us well again. And just to have a watch of this video, it's a super testimonial from Joe. And we'll come back after that.
I'm Joe Grogan. I was diagnosed with cancer through BowelScreen. In November 2023, I received a letter from BowelScreen and I decided to phone them to see what the story was. I said, when I got the test kit out, the instructions are very clear, but once you have it done, that's it. It takes 10 seconds, put it in the bag, off to the post office, and from there on, they look after it. So in December, I got a phone call to say that there had been an issue and that I would need to get a colonoscopy to see what's what. I had colonoscopy in January of 2024. I was told later that there was a polyp there and it was cancerous. It was a bit frightening at first, but as I spoke with them, they were all very positive of the outcome. When I got the result, okay, it wasn't a phone call you want to get, but I was so happy that, I got it, they got it so early. The biggest problem was sitting down with my wife and family and explaining to them what was going to happen. We're a very small unit and we're very supportive of each other. And of course, my sister's been a bit older. I said, did you do the BowelScreen? So they hadn't done it. So I said, get on the phone straight away and get it done. It's very important to get it sorted. Everything was as I was told it was going to be. From day one, they told me exactly what the plan was, and that's exactly how it worked. So things moved pretty quickly for me. I had an MRI scan and a CT scan within a week. I met with the surgical team and the 3 different consultants. over the next couple of weeks and started treatment in February of 2024. Then I had surgery where they just went in and removed anywhere that there was the cancers. They were happy enough afterwards that they got what they needed to. 3 months later, done another MRI, another CT scan, and they were happy that it hadn't spread. You know, the lymph nodes were clear. It gave me great relief. Everyone that I met, all the nurses, doctors, they were so positive of my prognosis that everything worked out well for me. I didn't have any complaints, and I am thankful that I'm come out the other side of it. It's all about early diagnosis. It's really about getting it on time and make sure that you get seen to and get the job done. So anyone that gets the letter, the number's on the front of the envelope, you don't even have to open it, ring them, and you will get through to someone who is very sympathetic and very empathetic with you, and they'll go through everything. You send off a sample and that's it. To me, it works so well, right through from the colonoscopy, through being told, to the diagnosis, to the treatment, and to hopefully the end, that, you know, we're being minded. So we're very lucky to have BowelScreen in Ireland. I wouldn't be here if I hadn't opened that letter that day. It meant the world to me at the end of the day, because I'm here and that's what's important.
Now, it meant the world to me at the end of the day because I'm here, and that's important, and that is surely important. Folks, this is a call out for people to please look into that, especially 59 to 70, the age gone out. So BowelScreen, the National Bowel Screening Programme, and the information as well as going up there as well in the chat bar, it would be really worth checking out. That's a really good testimonial for Joe Grogan as well. Another man who's championing in relation to health and well-being, which is really, really important. Now, folks, we're going in another direction, and I'm going to invite on my next guest, who, of course, is Bernard Jackman. Now, Bernard, anybody interested in rugby or knows anything about rugby in the world, Bernard, knows about you. But they might have known that everybody in the world might know that you came from Tullow in County Carlow, up the road here from Wexford, and you grew up in your parents' farm, and you attended Newbridge College. And then you went off to study in university in Dublin, in the college there, and you played rugby in school. And I read that Warren Gatland was seemingly responsible for thinking that you might go professional. And look, you've been so involved in so many things, but I know from 2018 around, you've been very much involved as well in media, and we've got to know you on our screens as a pundit. You've given us fabulous days out on the screen as well. So it's fabulous to have you here today. Can I start with maybe something that was said by Michael Darragh? He said about, you know, leaving sport can be a real challenge. You know, you have all those really great moments out, you know, packed stadiums, you have the ball. I was watching you going over the line there. I don't know how you got it over in one of the tries recently, and you could just hear that roar of the stadium, you know. The lights go off and you go out and you go home. That must be a challenge after playing at that ferocious level, you know.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lorcan, and great to hear all the speakers so far. They say athletes die twice, and I think it's finding that void. And I think whether you're an athlete or whether you're just maybe in a place that you don't want to be in, it's really important you try and find something that's going to give you energy and give you purpose. And I suppose I've seen lots of my former teammates struggle with that identity piece, and trying to replace that drive that they had, which is, it's quite easy to be driven and motivated when you're going into work every day with 40 people who are all chasing the same thing, whether that's to win for your province or to play for Ireland or to win a European Cup or to win a URC. And then when the game leaves you behind because of age or injury or loss of form, I think you need to find something else. So
Yeah.
what I did is I was a long time since I did my degree when I retired, so I went back and did a master's to challenge myself, and trying to study at whatever 35 was something that kind of got me going and gave me a little bit of energy and challenged me. And then when I got that completed, we went to France to coach, and so I went back to the sporting environment, but obviously in a completely different environment. And I had the challenge of trying to learn new language and trying to make sure our family integrated. So that's what I did, and that's helped me, I suppose, keep feeling positive about what I'm doing. And now I'm in the media game, I'm public speaking, I'm working with sports teams, business teams, and every day is a different day. And I'm very lucky to be in that spot. But I would say that my former teammates who did struggle with the transition, they probably didn't have something. They would say now that they found it difficult to find that something that gave them the same energy or
Yeah.
some of the same energy. It's obviously very difficult to replace professional sport, but that's something I feel very positive about, to be doing things that you like, whether that's in work or socially. It's important to keep giving that fuel back in to keep you going.
Okay, now Andy Farrell and the Irish team and men's health and all of the above. Vulnerability, really interesting that he introduced this notion of kind of naming and owning vulnerability as well, and as part of our masculinities, even in playing as champions. Really interesting. Is that an important part of sport now that maybe wasn't there in the past?
Oh, it's a massive change, Lorcan. I mean, when I was playing in the early 2000s, you'd nearly be afraid or embarrassed to say you're injured. Never mind, if you had an illness or a mental health issue, even things like concussion, people were afraid to own up to them. And the shift now is massive. And this whole Andy Farrell would have been a big pusher of it and a high profile one, but I think it's changed from all levels down, all levels down to lower levels of amateur rugby, where managers and leaders and captains understand that if you want to go shoulder to shoulder somebody on the pitch, which we try and do, well, then there needs to be an environment where everybody feels cared for and respected, and can be very open about what's going on in their life. And the really good teams, the really successful teams, are better at that than the others. You can train all you want, you can have all the best talent, but if there's not that respect and connection and trust, it's very rarely going to lead to performing on the field. So it's been a huge shift, and I'm seeing more of it in the companies that I work with as well, where there's that environment where people can actually be open and honest and share how they feel, and obviously share any worries they have, and that sharing is taken in the right way and respected and acted upon. So it's been a huge shift, and a very positive shift, very badly needed.
Well done, yeah. Gordon Darcy said somewhere, he was talking about mottos, if there was one in the team at one stage, was humble, relentless, disciplined. They're really powerful words. If that's part of your code of honor, working together, shoulder to shoulder, does that transfer out into public life afterwards? That kind of vigor and can you bring that with you into other places?
Yeah, I think you can bring it with you, but what you got to do then is sell it. You got to sell it to the next team you go into, and whether it might be totally three or four different values that or behaviors that people feel is important. I think that's the thing we're all looking for. We're looking to be in an environment where we're sharing that set of values and behaviors that are important, and it shouldn't be one man or one woman dictating those. It should be discussed upon and agreed upon, and then it's a case of driving them. And whether you're Alex Ferguson or whether you're Jim Gavin or whether you're Andy Farrell, that's what they do, is they make sure that the agreed way we're going to behave is actually real and lived. And sometimes you have to actually challenge it when it's not, but also acknowledge it when it is, and reward through gratitude or congratulate and recognize really positive behavior, whether that's humility, whether that's discipline, whatever it is that's decided upon. I think is really important, and we like that. Clarity gives confidence to us. So if you go into an environment where it's sporting or business or even family, and you know what you're chasing, I think it's much easier to actually live up to that.
Okay, I'm just wondering the context, and we're nearly running on time. I want to give you over to Fergal for a few minutes as well, in relation to culture change, right? And I know a lot of the work you do now, especially in media, there's opportunities with social media and the new technologies and all to change. Andy Farrell has changed the system, for example. He's brought in this kind of lesson in relation to vulnerability, and listening to that changes our whole approach to masculinities. Is there more we can be doing in relation to this week, like Men's Health Week? And are we getting the message right, Bernard, in relation to our sons, the younger guys out there, in how we can, make him not just think shoulder to shoulder, but even face to face, toe to toe? How can we do more of that? Or
I think this week is a great opportunity to do that. I think to change habits, you have to work on them consistently, and this is a great opportunity to maybe show a little bit of leadership in your your workplace or in a sport club to actually make people aware of it. That's the start, and then obviously you then may become a little bit of a mini ambassador in your workplace for this. And then of course it's how we respond to somebody actually reaching out to us. Are we attentive? Are we interested? And then do we act on that, and do we help support them until it's no longer an issue? That's how culture can change. And like the fact that everyone's on this Zoom have already shown an interest. And again, it's, can we take that interest and actually make it real in our real lives and in our networks? So, but it's so, yeah. Also, I think the one of the biggest things that's holding the whole culture back at the moment is just negativity and online abuse and all that stuff. So again, can we be positive in terms of what we share and how we speak to each other, even people we don't know? It's far easier to be negative, but I think that can have a huge positive effect and a knock-on effect for our children as well and people that we influence.
Okay. Bernard, I'm going to leave it there because I want Fergal to I know you have some really important questions to ask as well. But thanks so much for being with us here today and for going on the couch as well in a moment for us. Really, really good. And Fergal, I'm going to bring you in and I'm going to say goodbye for a few moments and let the rest of the guys join you there as well. And thanks so much, Bernard, for being with us and staying with us as well for being on the sofa. So Fergal, over to you there, please.
Thanks, Lorcan. Thanks very much. And just take a little break there. I'll bring it back in a minute. So we've Sean and Michael Darragh back in with Bernard. Bernard, thanks so much for sharing that. I think there's one of the common themes that I'm hearing there, and I'd like you, this little chat on the virtual sofa will give you a chance to talk to each other. But just to follow up, one of the things that you said there, Bernard, is there's an opportunity this week in talking, wherever you are, in a workplace or in a sports club, to kind of lead by example. And it seems like from some of the things that Michael Darragh said, and even some of the story that Sean told us, that we really have to take those opportunities. And sometimes it's not normal in a sports club. So somebody has to kind of stand up and start that conversation.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the manager or the chairman. Yeah. It can be anybody. And you'll often hear managers or chair people or say, "Oh, there's no leadership in this club, or no leadership in this group, or no leadership in this section of the company." So this, or else maybe sometimes people who don't have leadership roles say, "Oh, we never get a chance to lead." Well, this is just a simple opportunity to do something there's no possible negativity towards it. It's only possible positives, and actually share the message and hopefully bring people with you, or even just start that culture of people looking out for each other and sharing. So it's a simple opportunity, doesn't cost anything. It's just a little bit of effort and maybe stepping outside your comfort zone to start it.
Yeah, and Sean, if I could come to you next, because you've been through the service, you're really taking a very strong advocate role here, and did you find for a while that made you uncomfortable, or that was a big step from where you said that you were?
Yeah, what made me uncomfortable at first was it was actually saying the term anorexia. That really, yeah. I used to say eating disorder. Anorexia to me I was just afraid what people might think because of the common misconception out there about it. But definitely, like, as I've gone on, I've gotten stronger with it, and it's people always say thanks to me for advocating, but I always want to say thanks to them because it's allowing me to use this voice and it's allowing me to be the person that I know I am. So it gets easier, but yeah, there are tough times, but the support around is amazing, but yeah, it can be difficult, and I suppose I have to learn to take a step back as well, because I don't want my advocacy to become me. I don't want that to be my new identity. Like, you know what I mean? I need to be able to step back from it as well, and I'm able to do that very much so. So yeah, it was difficult at first, definitely putting myself out there, and in particular, as I said, on social media and stuff, and obviously there was the documentary on RT and stuff, but it's been more beneficial to me, really. Like, it's been really good in my recovery to be able to use my voice.
It reminds me of one of the things that Michael Darragh said, and somebody's actually asked the question in the chat, in the Q&A, that they're concerned about somebody that's a runner, they're concerned about a friend of theirs, and Michael Darragh made the point that, he tells people to ask twice. What's your take on that, Sean?
Yes, 100%. And like it's something in an area that I think when it comes to sports and running and long distance running and marathon running, that I do think, there could be more awareness. And it's really important, as Michael Darragh says there, to ask twice. Because first time round, people mightn't necessarily be open enough to it. But I think second time round, they might feel more accepting because they know you genuinely kind of, it's not just, how are you? It's a real, like, I care. And it's so important that we get that out there. And it's like Bernard said as well, it was a really good point. The way we speak to each other, words matter. Certain things you might say to someone in jest might seem like that to you, but they can really be affecting someone. Something that someone might have said to me when I was going through everything, it may have had a massive effect on me. They mightn't have realised. So it's to be careful with things like that.
Yeah, Michael, Darragh, the kind of groups that you're working with, the new communities, you're trying to create social solidarity, integration, awareness. Do you feel that that kind of that social inclusion agenda needs to be taken on by more of us in Irish society?
Yeah, and I suppose often what we find is that like people want to, and people are like just don't even know how to kind of support people who are new to the community because they're not crossing paths with them. Because sometimes if you land over here from Somalia, you mightn't be playing, you might be drinking down the local pub, or you mightn't be playing hurling with the local GAA team, and just swimming in those circles. So I suppose what Sanctuary Runners tries to do is to try and create those spaces that are like really welcoming. We work with all the direct vision centres. We go into all of them, and it's not just about like refugees and asylum seekers. We also want the Polish builders and the students over here studying medicine and everyone else. Because at the end of the day, we're all the same, and the sooner like we find that out through conversations, the better. So I suppose we're just like particularly welcoming places to come for people to come and enjoy a walk or a jog or a run. So yeah, it's huge. And I think like people always ask me like, how do you get involved? Or there's people in my community, and I don't know how to interact with them. And the first thing is just is as kind of Sean said before, is to kind of have that conversation. And with us, it's just to show up. There's absolutely no barriers to entry. There's no cost. You show up at any of our sessions, you'll put on a blue t-shirt, and you'll be wearing the same blue t-shirt as everyone from everywhere else. And yeah, and it's just that's where those kind of little bits of social capital are kind of built up amongst the groups. Yeah.
One of the things that we've been doing in health and wellbeing in the HSE for the last 2-3 years now, we've had a podcast, and it allows us to have a deeper conversation with people in the health service and with our partners. But I just recorded one last week with Conor Hammersley. He's just won the Laurie Maher with playing hurling for New York, but he's working in New York at the moment. He studied healthy masculinities, and the topic of the podcast was healthy masculinities. And he was talking about it from a sporting context and from his own studies point of view. But he mentioned being in a dressing room with the New York hurling team, consistently training together since January, and that 2 mentors or managers brought up the issue of suicide in the dressing room, and how powerful it was to see that modeling. Or it's kind of some of what you mentioned, Bernard, that showing different bits of leadership. You can show it in different ways, bringing both men's health and a healthy approach to masculinity onto the agenda. Bernard, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think it's massive, and I'm seeing more and more of it, but we need to keep encouraging it and recognizing it when it happens. It's not an easy thing to do, to show vulnerability as a leader, to maybe go off task, because sometimes we think the task is to prepare the team technically, tactically, for the challenge that's ahead of them at the weekend. But it's actually, when you have that responsibility, it's all encompassing. It's about the person as much as anything else. And yeah, I love hearing examples of that. And as I said, I see more and more of it, but we still have a long way to go.
And I think just to come in on that as well, like I was at an event there last week, run by the GPA, but there was 2 speakers, but Mark Shields has just come out as being gay. He's with the Armagh Senior Football team at the moment, and he spoke about how encouraging the team were, and even McGeeney can be a scary man at the best of times. But he and how encouraging, how supportive that group was for him to make that decision. So that's amazing to hear. And I've had friends who've dropped out of playing Gaelic football because it wasn't a welcoming space for them, because there was people throwing slur words around the dressing room, left, right, and centre, and they said, you know what, this actually isn't for me, and they've had to stop the sport that they love. And I remember I spoke to one in particular recently since Mark did that at that event, and he was like, that's amazing. I would have loved to have him to look up to when I was a player. And he said the only player he had was David Goff, and David Goff was the ref. He wasn't even in the same space exactly. Like so, I think that's really important, and the team will only benefit from that as well on a wider issues that they kind of wrapped their arms around him and said, look, fair play to you for coming out now. Yeah, so I think I thought I was just really impressed with that kind of like show of solidarity and masculinity as well.
Yeah, it's about taking a healthy approach, I suppose, and just as you're saying there, you're pushing the boundaries, and you're like we're basically too heteronormative as a society, so we need to shake that down wherever we can. Thanks for your inputs on that. I'd like to kind of thank you all as well. As like you're really kind of showcasing your own healthy masculinity, your healthy approach to being able to kind of emotionally verbalize your experiences in support of men's health. The three of you in different ways, and Joe Grogan on the video, I'd like to give him a shout out in terms of the work that he's done with BowelScreen. It's really helpful, and it's very important. So Sean, from your own, your service experience, your journey, I'd like to, particular thanks to you and to Bernard and Michael Darragh for joining us here and for helping us gather a crowd, because you're so well known. Obviously, people, want to listen to you as well. So you're using your position of leadership. So I'd like to thank you all and wish ye and everybody else a happy and healthy Men's Health Week. And we'll hand back to Lorcan now. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So everybody, thank you very much. Yeah, Fergal has done most of the goodbyes, so it's just coming up to me then to wish well to everybody as well. Can I just recall again, just what we were saying a few moments ago, Fergal has mentioned it there, folks, and it really is worth having a look at. Talking Health and Wellbeing is that podcast he's talking about, and go back in and have a look for it and put it on your phone, go for a walk. There's some really, really very, very interesting podcasts there, Fergal and other people that are involved in, and that's really, really important. Also, just to say again, not too late to get involved in the week. Go back to what Collie said at the beginning. Lots of stuff we can do. MHFI.org, you can still go in. There's still downloads there that you can take out. You can still take a photograph in social media. Keep the traction going, keep the conversation going for the week as well. And just a reminder to all of us, as I said earlier, services are not just for other people. Could be some of us on here today think we need to take a bit of a conversation with ourselves and maybe step in the direction of a bit of support or something else that needed for us in the week that's on at the moment. So before we go, maybe just to say, let's make the week count. Let's make our days count. Mind ourselves and mind each other. And until the next time, we'll say we'll go well. And can I just say as well, finally, a big shout out to the team in IMS who mind us here on the screen so well, and to Michael, who's been minding all of us for the last hour. Really, really super to have him here beside us. So have a great week, have a great year, and please do go well.